Hi, everybody. As far as I know, I'm still the same Jason Victor Serenas that I was yesterday when I was doing videos for Stereophile. And I'm here with Damon von Schweikert, son of the legendary Albert von Schweikert of von Schweikert Audio. And we are here to talk about, since I just walked into the room and I don't know a thing, we are talking about which speakers?
This is our brand new VR.30s.
And tell us what makes this brand new VR.30 different from previous models.
Well, I would say it's similar in that the project design title for this was the Mini Ultra 7, which is one of our flagship speakers. But we wanted to try and bring as much of that performance and that kind of format down to a more attainable price point. So this comes in two versions. At $53,000 in the standard version and $59,000 in the version you see here, which incorporates our foundation technology, which is the plate amplifier on the bass section.
So I just have to say, when we do a video and we say obtainable is $53,000 a pair, we're realizing we're talking in the high-end audio universe, which is a world unto its own.
Prior to this, we have our one at $27,000. That's our entry level. But before this, the next step was $85,000. So, and then we go up from there. So for von Schweikert, we were trying to bring that performance down to either the $50,000, $60,000 price point, which has quite a bit of competition in it.
So I didn't plan to do this or put you on the spot, but here you are. People wonder, why does this speaker cost that much money? So can you talk about the technology and stuff that goes into this?
Absolutely.
Please.
Everything we do, when we started design, for one, we don't want to produce something unless we're able to produce something that meets all the expectations sonically, from a performance standpoint, tonally, and be able to produce it in the US the way we've always produced our speakers for roughly 50 years as a family. So what's incorporated in here is, there's a price point you're trying to hit, and that ultimately determines what budget you have as a designer to work with. What kind of cabinets, what kind of driver selection. All of our cabinets are hand-built in the US, in Riverside, California, and but all of our drivers, particularly the Accutons, which you see here, these cell drivers, which are ceramic coated, they're a honeycomb sandwiched aluminum, and then we have a ceramic mid-range and a beryllium tweeter. So these are all European drivers, and then most of our electrical components, crossover components, come from Europe as well. We have, and the rest, what doesn't come from there is all US. So we have US foundries that generate the wire that we use and our inductors. So we are very focused on doing what we can to cultivate and curate the best components to achieve the performance. And this, in this configuration, is flat to 20 hertz in the room.
That's fabulous. And it goes down to?
Down to 20 hertz.
Flat down
to 20 hertz in such a small.
Oh God. These things. Okay, everyone, leave it on. Leave it in. This is what happens. Okay, yes.
It's been a long weekend. I know what you mean, but
it's
yes,
a long lifetime.
But we're quite excited that we're able to achieve such performance in a diminutive cabinet. Now you notice it's mostly deep. But so we intentionally decided to give it, we always like small minimum diffraction baffles, and this is the perfect height for the tweeter. And then all that airspace that we need is kind of built back into the cabinet.
And so these are European drivers, so how are the tariffs doing for you?
Well, the good news is we have a phenomenal inventory of these drivers, so we don't expect to see any price changes. This came out, as you know, in November of last year. We released it for the first time at Capitol Audio Fest, and this is the first time in Chicago. And we have quite an inventory, but we'll wait and see how things go.
And what the cabinet itself is made of what? And tell us.
So it's okay. So we have a very unique approach to cabinet design. Cabinet design or cabinet structure can eat the majority of the budget if you allow it to, and ultimately it makes no noise. It doesn't. It can only detract from the performance. It can't add to it. So we use...
it can add if it has resonances, right?
It can add unpleasant things. That's what I mean by... Yes, you're absolutely right. You can definitely distort the performance of the signal with your cabinet. How we achieve that in what I think is an elegant solution and a less expensive solution than other approaches is we use an HDF shell, 1 inch throughout the cabinet, 2 inches on the front baffle. But then
HDF is
high density fiberboard, so it's
Thank you.
so it's more plastic than powder.
Okay.
It's acrylic. It's a much higher ratio.
Got it.
But what's important is how we break up our cabinet. Everything resonates at a frequency, even dense metals. But so we lean into that. We know it's going to resonate, so we break up the panels of the speaker into different Q factors. So they all resonate. They don't build and multiply, they dissipate. And in addition to that, even when we have parallel symmetrical panels, we will do constrained layer damping on one of those panels. So we will actually have 1.5 inches of synthetic stone applied internally with damping material. So we're mitigating all that resonance down to a factor when it's playing at 20 hertz. You can put your hand on it here and you're feeling very little vibration and nothing is transferring down to the floor, which ultimately will move your tweeter and give you a smearing effect.
Right, yeah, I've never played doctor with the stethoscope going over here. I don't know if I even played doctor as a child, which may make me very strange. But anyway, back to audio. So it's the third day of the show. You're getting it all, everybody, on this video. So this is great. And so it's been out since Capital Audio Fest.
That's when we first debuted the prototypes, and now we have the production model here.
So are they at dealers now?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I think we have dealers across the U.S. that have them on display and ready to demo.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And one of the things, if I may,
yes,
absolutely. I know you're familiar with our foundation technology, but to reiterate for those that don't, it's basically something we've developed for 20 years. We've iterated for 4 generations. And what we do is it's a purely passive analog solution. We have a passive network, but we put a plate amplifier on the in front of the bottom binding posts that are feeding these woofers. That goes through the plate amplifier, through the passive network to the woofers. We do all that to put a gain control.
Wow.
And that allows us, it doesn't matter how flat our speakers are in a test environment. What's important is in your room.
Right.
So we're able to bring them into this space and we say, okay, well, we like the imaging here. The voices sound best here. So we're going to set the speakers up here and then dial that bass flat to this spot in the room. Let's say you didn't want your speakers 4 feet in the room, you wanted them 2 feet in the room. You can do that with a speaker and dial it in flat and get what I think is quite good performance.
That's fabulous. I have one final question,
Sure.
which is that, as I recall, your father was especially famed for his crossovers.
Yeah.
So what has it been like without him around to get to that point? Has it been a challenge?
Well, the good news is everything that we do, even to this day, is based on the foundations that he set for us, the first principles. One thing I'll never forget about my father, when I started to engage with the tech side of this, is I'd say, what do you think if we did this and that and the other thing? And he'd say, you got to test it. And we still do that, everything. We test it all, and we use the same slope.
By ear or by?
Both.
Okay.
You need both.
Okay.
From my perspective, you have quantitative elements of testing, measurements of quantity, but qualitative is subjective, and it's something we need to do, and you got to train your ear and listen to reference material and understand how to do it.
So there is one final question,
Sure.
which is reference material.
Yeah.
What do you use for reference material? I think it would be interesting for people to know.
Well, okay, I have a selection of about 15 songs that I've been listening to for 25 years, but I will say, to me, it's piano. And for my dad, it was piano as well. He was a pianist, classically trained. And the piano will tell you where you're doing it right and where you're doing it wrong very easily as you play across the frequency ranges.
And do you listen to different pianos, like a Fazioli and a Bösendorfer?
It's really wonderful that you can have that kind of resolution with a system like this and be able to discern quite quickly, both who's playing and what they're playing on. So
great,
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. So, Gary, hi.
Jason,
Um,
wonderful to be with you.
I
Thank you.
discovered you, I think, at the first show you attended, and I went, oh my goodness, there's something special here.
Thank you, Jason.
And it's been a while since I've heard these guys.
2 years, actually.
And are these the same amps that I heard?
They are.
Okay.
And if I may, not interrupt you, but say that what I was most notable is you asked me to play something from Westminster Abbey.
Oh,
A
right.
particular track. You said, oh, it's Westminster.
Right.
And we did, and you listened. And then I told you the relationship between London, Westminster, and Westminster.
Which
May I?
is?
Okay.
Which is?
So Angus Lung, the brilliant young engineer, 38 years young, grew up, he's a native of Hong Kong, his family is there, but he was educated, boarding school, all the way through his graduate in architecture in the UK. And he started Westminster in his dorm room when he was doing his undergrad. And the view was Westminster.
And how many years ago was that?
That was probably 11, 12 years ago.
So, and you weren't in the picture then?
Not at all. No, he just was, he started with cabling. He was into head-fi at the time, but his passion was amplifiers and amplifier design. And as a young boy, and then into his teenage years, when he would come home for the summer, he worked in a Hong Kong high-end shop that would repair and ultimately modify Krell, Mark Levinson, and Macintosh amps. You know how the Hong Kong community is about these classic American brands.
Okay, I don't, but I'm learning.
So a few people started to find out that Angus was able to improve these designs. And they started to pay him for it. And so throughout these summers, as he would come home every year, his reputation sort of grew.
And he designed, these are his design?
They are his design and his partner Felix. And Angus does most of the architecture, layout, and industrial design, because to get this Class A amplifier into a tiny little package is quite a feat. And then Felix does most of the circuit design, and then of course they voice it together. And so this is how the Westminster Lab company and amplifier, but it's 10 years old now, and slowly gaining the acceptance of these remarkable small amplifiers.
So since we're talking rather than listening, what's remarkable about them?
They don't sound like a Class A amplifier.
Which means to you?
Yes, to us it's faster. It's not as warm, generally, and I mean that literally and figuratively, because Class A amps are known for being hot. And it has a texture to it and a nuance to it that you don't generally find either in large Class A amplifiers or powerful Class A Bs. And the nuance and the texture I'm talking about is particularly in the bass region. So when you hear it for the first time, there is a period of a little adjusting, but then once you settle into it, that's when the magic kind of happens.
So what is the adjusting? What do you...
Adjusting to a voicing or a sound of an amplifier. I call it...
Oh, I see.
Angus, REI means zero. So when you translate the name of the amplifier as Ray or REI, and you can pronounce it either way. And the translation, the Chinese translation, is zero.
Oh, wow.
So it's an absence of an amplifier. And so this minimalist design was intended for the amplifier to just get out of the way and not be there.
Right.
And so usually you hear an amplifier, it has a signature, you like it, and it's a particular sound, but with Westminster, it sort of has no real sound of its own.
Well, that's always the goal. So these have been on the market in the U.S. for how many years?
This will be my third year.
Third year.
And if I could interject quickly, this is how I had the pleasure of meeting my partner, Damon. Yeah. Damon had always shown with tubes. He had this thought, well, maybe I should let people know you can also use it with a non-tube amplifier. A mutual friend introduced us. The amplifiers kissed the speakers, and it's
Oh,
been
so are you? So you and Damon are partners in
yes,
Westminster?
it's a new thing.
Oh,
No, Damon, we met through Westminster,
Westminster.
so this is what I bring into the U.S.
Okay, so by partners is
Yes, but
okay,
then
thank you.
we started to show together, and then the relationship has grown where I now spend probably half my time with Damon.
This is
And
very sweet.
so it's like a
Okay.
marriage,
Yeah.
you know, and it was made in audio, go figure, right?
And what's amazing is that neither of you, I haven't seen you squabble once,
Mm.
which is like maybe a little atypical. We have some visitors in this room who are now all trying to keep their giggles off the camera,
Yes.
off the soundtrack.
It's a wonderful partnership.
And besides, do you
Yes.
have other products besides the amps?
Yes. So we have the matching preamp,
Okay.
unusual for the fact that it has no buttons. So it's completely done by remote control, Jason. You have this lovely wand.
Hi.
Very simple. All right.
Yeah.
And for those viewers who want to know, every unit comes with two, because if in the middle of an evening of great listening, a battery dies, you're not going to be able to use the button.
So in
So,
other
yeah.
words, when we're talking about marriage, this
Yes.
means that you and your significant other could have it and do the war.
The dueling war?
Right.
Yeah, nice idea, Jason. I hadn't thought about it that
Okay,
way.
wait, family
Yes,
values. Okay.
family values. This is a straight show here.
Okay.
And so it's fully balanced. The entire inside and the top shelf. Angus is a big fan of using carbon fiber for noise reduction.
Uh-huh.
So all the boards, every critical board that is susceptible to external noise is covered and insulated by a cover of carbon.
Right. Alvin Lloyd, who does Grand Prix Audio.
Okay, Grand P.
Right, right. He's really
Yep.
into carbon fiber, and
Right.
he's the one who really taught me.
Yes,
about that.
and I know his designs, and they're brilliant. So 5 inputs. The option of using, we have 3 phono cards if you're a phono enthusiast. We have a true mono, we have a DS audio, and we have an MC card, and it's modular.
So you have DS audio. So do you
Yeah.
also have? So you have the high pass and the low pass
Yes.
and whatever you need to.
Absolutely. And,
Wow.
Aki-san is a good colleague and contemporary of Angus. They're similar in age.
Uh-huh.
They're similar in mind. You know, they're breaking the rules a bit. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And slowly they're getting more known for, wow, this is good technology. So they collaborated on one of the it was DS Audio, and then I think Meitner and us, who said there's promise in this technology. We want to make our own phono card.
Oh, so you've been working
Yeah.
on it at the same time as
Yes,
Meitner. And,
same time.
Uh-huh.
And Angus at that point had never listened to a vinyl record. And every time he travels all over, he comes back with like 50 albums. He's up to like, I don't know, 700-800 records.
This is great.
Yeah. So a young guy who got hooked by developing a phono card.
And the preamp is how many years old?
That came later.
Yeah.
The REIs came first. So this is probably now 3.5, and those are probably 4.
Wow.
So, and I met Angus during COVID. I was just so bored. I'm scouring for interesting audio, and they were so small. I thought, well, you know, it's hard to stand out. There's so many great amplifiers. These are really small. Maybe some guys like me are tired of lifting a big amp.
So you were. I've reviewed monoblocks, right?
Yes,
So
I know. Big, they're quite large ones. Yeah.
Yes. My spine is getting more curved each day.
Of course.
So you were scouring around. What
Yeah.
had you been doing before?
I had launched a company with my sons called Modern Fidelity, and our goal, and we achieved it, was to create you familiar with the Devulet, the very high performance
yes.
wireless?
Yes.
And I tried to get my sons to get involved in high-end audio with me. They're like, no thanks, Dad. But if you can make something for our generation that's wireless and small and sounds like your big stuff, we're in. So that was Modern Fidelity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it tapered down when COVID hit, everything sort of came zero. And then, you know, my true passion has always been this.
Great.
So and then I found Angus, and then I found Damon, and so it's been a bit of kismet, if you will.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and I'm having the time of my life.
This is great.
Yeah.
And before I start playing the violins and crying because this is so lovely, I think it's a good time to do a wrap.
Yes, please.
Or is there anything else you wanted to add?
Not at all, other than we're grateful for you helping us tell our story, because all these products in audio, and what's always fascinated me, are the stories and the men and the women and the people behind those stories.
And darling, would I ever stop anybody from telling a story?
No, way.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.